So I says to him, I says, God help us, we're in the hands of engineers.
No.
I did.
Awesome. Alright, it looks like the confabulators are confabulating and the semiflange is operating at peak levels. I say we call it a night.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Wait.
Goldblum?
There's a very large object headed our way.
Is it another asteroid? I mean, I could just fire up the Atari and...
No. It's moving at an increasing rate of speed, and it's very, very large.
On screen. Oh, f***, it's a space kaiju! Friends, I'm your Captain DT, and this is terrifying, but also kind of exciting.
Oh god, you've gone stupid. More stupid.
I kinda love kaiju. I've been a huge fan of kaiju movies since I was a kid. Everything from Godzilla and King Kong all the way up to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. There's something awesome and exciting about gigantic, seemingly unstoppable creatures that tear through cities and run amok that's captured my imagination forever. And the genre has also found ways through the decades to stay clever and engaging, and it's frequently reinvented itself. In 2016, Toho reinvented Godzilla from the ground up, literally, with Shin Godzilla, possibly the creepiest and scariest version of Godzilla, and instead of exploring fear and repercussions of nuclear war, Shin Godzilla instead turns its sights on modern politics as the underlying theme. And it became the highest grossing Godzilla film ever. In 2014, America took another swing at Godzilla, finally washing the taste of the 1998 Roland Emmerich film out of our mouths, and gave us a great modernized riff on the franchise, but one that stayed true to the spirit of the original 1954 film. A lot of people say that Godzilla 2014 is boring, and those people can just continue going through life being completely wrong. It is an excellent film and one that captures the spirit of Godzilla so well that director Gareth Edwards received the highest praise from Toho executives themselves. It's just great. But aside from King Kong, created by Marion C. Cooper and Edgar Wallace in 1933, American kaiju media has largely just been a riff on what Japan has done. But in 2008, director Matt Reeves, writer Drew Goddard, and producer J.J. Abrams took it upon themselves to create a whole new American kaiju franchise and mythology. It turned out to be a pretty big success, a film that was well loved at the time, but people have kind of cooled off on it and don't really talk about it nearly as much as they should. So, because we're trapped in the stomach of a kaiju and we're probably not going anywhere for a little while, let's talk about Cloverfield. The concept for a new American kaiju movie came from J.J. Abrams, who we know as a pretty good idea guy, but maybe not always the best guy to execute those ideas. He was traveling with his son in Japan, and the thought occurred to him that America needed a kaiju monster of its own that wasn't charming or appealing like either King Kong or what Godzilla had evolved into that point. Something genuinely scary and provoking. He pitched the idea to Paramount, and it was secretly greenlit to be produced by his own Bad Robot Productions. Matt Reeves was brought on to direct, and Drew Goddard penned the screenplay, and when I say secretly, I mean secretly. No announcements, no press releases. The idea was to generate hype without telling audiences what the film was or what it would be about. Instead, Paramount Pictures produced a viral AR campaign, and Bad Robot produced a teaser trailer that didn't even include the film's title. It was designed much like the film itself to start with a fun, easygoing party in Manhattan, when the night suddenly takes a horrible turn and leaves audiences with no further information than that. Not including the film's title in the teaser was actually kind of a flex and actually had to be approved by the Motion Picture Association of America, and they were cool with it. So it ran in front of Transformers, which had everybody excited and was the perfect film to piggyback a brand new mysterious sci-fi film. Everybody went nuts over the teaser. Somehow the studio and everybody involved in the production had kept it a secret, and when the teaser dropped unexpectedly, it made moviegoers and the internet go crazy. People thought it was a new Godzilla film. They thought it might be a continuation of J.J. Abrams' TV series Lost. People were analyzing the trailer and getting the details mixed up to the point where some people even thought it was going to be a live-action Voltron movie.
What is it? Is it coming this way? I saw it! It's alive! It's huge!
It was a goddamn sensation. A virtual online campaign was launched where the characters in the film had MySpace pages. You guys remember MySpace, right? And clues and hints were spread across multiple websites that intrepid folks on the internet would go on to discover. Advertising campaigns for fictional companies featured in the film popped up, and the story of a mysterious industrial disaster was spun. Paramount and Bad Robot even used 2007 San Diego Comic-Con as a platform to further spread awareness and clever disinformation for the movie. It was fucking awesome. People could not wait to see what this movie was going to be. The film finally came out in January 18th, 2008, and did it live up to the expectations? In a word, heck yeah.
That's 2 words.
The film is entirely made up of found footage, which was all the rage at the time. The Blair Witch Project came out in 1999, and it drummed up all kinds of hype with its unique and interesting method of telling its story, and it led to subsequent films like Chronicle and Paranormal Activity, and so on. And to make a kaiju movie from essentially a first-person perspective, literally on the ground floor of what's happening, was pretty damn inspired. The film kicks off with camcorder footage of Rob and Beth, 2 friends from college who finally hooked up, planning a special day together knowing that Rob will eventually take a high-paying job in Tokyo. This is spliced in with footage of Rob's going away party on May 22, 2008. Everybody gathers with a bunch more friends in Rob's apartment, and it's Rob's best friend HUD to document the evening as a going away present, which establishes the camcorder device for the cinematography. It's kind of brilliant. We learn just enough about the characters to get us invested, and then everything goes to hell. Explosions rock Lower Manhattan, where Rob and his friends live, and their neighborhood is pummeled with flaming debris. They make their way down to the street just in time to witness the head of the Statue of Liberty hurled onto the ground before them, followed by a gigantic mass quickly lumbering between buildings with the military in hot pursuit. Now, that shot of Lady Liberty's head in the street has become pretty iconic. It's the money shot for the film's marketing campaign, and aside from the scant reveals of the monster itself, it's more or less the signature visual for the film. And I remember people laughing about the idea of people immediately pulling out their cell phones to take photo and video of it, and people were even laughing in the theater. It was a hilarious, cynical sight. This terrible disaster beginning to unfold, a national landmark defaced, literally, and people's first instinct was to document on their phones. But how goddamn prophetic was that? It was hilarious to us in 2008, and now we live in an age where people's first instinct is to try and document everything for their own social media, and we live in an age where we're stuck watching an entire concert through the phone screen of the person in front of us. This film is smart in a lot of ways. People still like to comment that the characters in this movie are dumb and unlikable, and they're supposed to be. In Shin Godzilla, we see an entire government that can't properly react to the disaster that's happening in Japan. It's so absorbed in politics and red tape to the point where they can't properly deal with Godzilla's attack. And Cloverfield is that on a much smaller, more intimate scale, where the characters react through terror, guilt, and probably dealing with real shit for the first time in their entire lives. This is essentially the cast of friends who have never had any real hardship, are living in super dope apartments in one of the most expensive cities on the planet, and are grappling with their entire world being torn apart and the idea that they might die at any moment. So yeah, it's absolutely silly that someone keeps going back for the camera to keep the movie going. It's absurd that one of the characters is running through a kaiju attack on Manhattan wearing high heels. It's hilarious that the characters run into the US military in a shopping mall, and an officer tells a bunch of yuppies what the government's plan is to deal with the threat. But that's how kaiju movies are. Human beings in kaiju movies are either monster food, or they're shallow devices used to move the plot along and make us care just long enough until we get to see the monster again. And this movie's use of found footage as a framing device beautifully, wonderfully keeps the monster mysterious to us until key reveals are sprinkled throughout. And given that the film had a very modest $30 million budget, it smartly helped hide the seams and sometimes spotty CGI the film sports. It also works in the film's favor to intensify the drama and hysteria of the film. A steady camera following these characters through the film's chaotic runtime, acting as like an omniscient observer, would not have had the same impact, and the film would not have been as much fun and insane as it ended up being. We're right there in the mess with Rob and HUD and Lily and Jason and Marlena, and we only know as much as they do. And that's fun for us as the audience. The film's first act is not setting up the origins of the monster or the build-up to its arrival. There's no drawn-out conversations between scientists and world leaders. The cast never see it coming, and we get to experience the monster's appearance just as they do. The first understanding we actually do get of what's actually happening is from Marlena, who is wonderfully played by Lizzie Kaplan, who was trapped outside on the street when the creature passes by through their neighborhood. She tells the group,
Okay, no, who's eating people? Who's eating everyone?
And up to that point, we don't have any clue what's actually going on. We follow the characters on as they try to escape Manhattan, and we run into what we eventually come to understand as a gigantic creature running amok through the city, eating people as it goes and ripping apart everything in sight.
Speaking of being ripped apart, our shields are now at 65%.
The film's brisk 85-minute runtime continues on with a group of characters through all sorts of chaos and destruction, and it actually quickly becomes a rescue mission for Beth, the aforementioned college friend that Rob had hooked up with just a short while before. He's in love with her and he feels guilt at turning her away at his party, and he refuses to leave her to die. The film is gross, gooey, creepy, and the atmosphere is excellent. The monster itself is a bizarre tangle of disproportionate limbs and teeth, stumbling through the city like a pissed-off, angry toddler that was jolted awake from too short of a nap. It spreads dog-sized parasites through the city as it shambles along, creating yet another layer of threat and tension, and one that ends up being incredibly fun and leads to one of the best sequences in the film. The monster itself is, of course, the star of the show, though, and it's a beautiful design created by Neville Page and brought to life by Double Negative and Tippett Studio, the latter of which was actually founded by Hollywood effects legend Phil Tippett in 1984, and the studio has worked on a bunch of little obscure films like RoboCop and Jurassic Park and Starship Troopers. Thank goodness Tippett Studio broke through with Cloverfield and it finally made a name for itself. The origins of the monster, dubbed Cloverfield, or affectionately referred to by fans as Clovey, are not explained at all during the film and only hinted at in the viral marketing leading up to the film's release. The characters in the film discuss where the monster may have come from, but it's up to us as the audience to draw our own conclusions. We've been given hints at possible extraterrestrial origins, the creature coming from space, or being of our own planet and being dormant in the ocean for many years before the movie starts. Even after the release of the film for home viewing, J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves have enjoyed toying with fans and offering conflicting stories on where the monster might have come from. I know the actual answer, but I'm not gonna ruin it for you.
He has no idea.
All this culminates into a film that achieved the highest opening ever for Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, toppling even Titanic's record for the holiday at the time. Critics were split on the film, naturally, and Cloverfield sits at 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm okay with that. This is a film that people that vibe with it really love, and everybody else probably just aren't enamored with the kaiju genre or don't connect with its many silly tropes and quirks. I love this movie, unabashedly. It's a ton of fun, its sensibilities are right on the money, and its success more or less put Drew Goddard and Matt Reeves on the map. Drew Goddard would of course go on to be the creator and the showrunner for Netflix's Daredevil, which is easily the best bit of Marvel ever committed to television, and Matt Reeves would go on to write and direct The Batman, which many consider to be one of the best adaptations of Batman ever. J.J. Abrams would... Okay, we don't have to talk about that. To this day, people are still clamoring for a proper sequel. The decision was to shift the franchise into an anthology of sorts, and it really hasn't worked out. 10 Cloverfield Lane was fun and had some really excellent performances from both John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but I think most people were just waiting for the Cloverfield monster to show up, despite how decent that film was in its own right. The Cloverfield paradox was fun for what it was, but most people f***ing hate it, and I think it might largely have to do with the fatigue over being given these entirely separate anthology films instead of what we really want. Another movie directly related to the original, featuring that gigantic monster baby throwing a tantrum and gobbling up spoiled New Yorkers. And thank goodness a proper sequel is in the works now, because with Aaron Rodgers coming to play for the Jets, New Yorkers are just going to be even more entitled than ever. Cloverfield was an excellent, super fun kaiju movie for American audiences, and one that probably should have launched a franchise rather than its name just kind of being attached to other films to try and feed off the fond memories moviegoers have for it. I think it's one that should still be talked about today, and I hope the conversation kicks back up once we get that follow-up film. There's still no definitive release date for the direct sequel, but there's apparently a screenplay written and a director attached. I, for one, cannot wait.
I cannot wait to get the out of this monster.
Right, okay, how do we get it to spit us out? I could go outside and shoot it a couple times, Han Solo style.
I don't think Nerf darts will have the same impact as a blaster. We still have Chipotle left over from when you were constipated last week.
Thanks for that, but I don't think we want to go out that end of the kaiju.
Yes, so, Uva Bowls in the name of the king at full volume then?
Wisdom is our hammer.
Prudence will be our nail. My son.
I suppose I may have tampered with the king's food.
You've poisoned me! You've killed me!
Don't be so melodramatic.
No!
It's nothing that can't be fixed.
Finally, a purpose for something movable is done. We'll send out a report to Galactonaut HQ and we'll alert the local authorities about that kaiju. In the meantime, though, that's going to do it for this episode of Space Castle. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and help us out in our mission to explore the universe for all things nerdy. And if you'd like to help out even more, please consider becoming part of the Galactonaut crew by joining up at patreon.com/spacecastlepod. You'll find bonus content and you'll get additional perks on our Discord, which is always linked in the show notes. Be sure to join up today and join the conversations there. I'm gonna go wash the stink of In the Name of the King off me. This is your Captain DT, signing off.